Alright, hi folks. Today we're going to talk about the size of an atom. It's going to be a pretty quick podcast, but it's very thought-provoking. Okay, how big is an atom? Well, Dalton really didn't have any idea. However, we do know now. So let's go and talk about that for a minute. Let's look at water. We're going to take this thing right here as being a water molecule. Now, we know now that a water molecule is made up of 2 hydrogen atoms attached to 1 oxygen atom, so it's made up of a total of 3 atoms in 1 molecule, right? Okay. So, here's a tablespoonful of water. It is a full tablespoonful of water that's just sitting in my hand. So the question is, how many molecules of water are in a tablespoon? What do you think? Take a guess. Pause the video, take a guess. All right, say 100? Did you say 1,000? Did you say maybe 1,000,000? That's a lot. Well, in all honesty, molecules are way too small for us to see. Atoms are even smaller because molecules are made up of atoms. So you might have said maybe even 1 billion? No, we're not there yet, folks. Sorry. How many molecules are in a tablespoon of water? Well, I'll tell you. All right? And I've got to count, so I'm not going to talk. Think I'm done? Nope. Done yet? Nope. Nope. Yep. All right. So that's how many molecules there are, believe it or not, in that little bit of water that you see down there. Now, if we're talking about atoms, we have to multiply that number by 3. So that's going to be that many atoms of some hydrogen, some oxygen, that many atoms in that little bit of water. So, if there's so many, that tells you they've got to be really, really, really tiny, because there's no other way they're going to fit. All right, so they really, 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 really are tiny. Okay. How big is a nucleus? Well, gosh, wait a minute. Rutherford found the nucleus, and if you remember, we talked about the nucleus being something that's very dense, and the electrons are way out here. Right? So we said this is a very, very dense nucleus. Then we've got electrons floating around out here somewhere. All right. So how big is a nucleus? Well, there's really no good way to show you or tell you that. So what I'm going to try and do is give you a relative size. All right. If there are that many atoms in a tablespoonful of water, they're really tiny. And how can a nucleus be even smaller? Well, it really is. So here's my concept. You're at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, watching a Virginia Tech game. Sorry, you UVA fans, that's the way it goes. Right? You're up in the nosebleed section in the east stands, okay? And you look all the way down with a pair of binoculars to the 50-yard line. Well, you're going to need more than a pair of binoculars. But what you're looking for on the 50-yard line is a coffee bean. You're looking for one single coffee bean sitting on the 50-yard line. And remember, you're up in the nosebleed section, way up in the east stands. Well, bottom line, folks, is what you're doing is you're looking for that little coffee bean down here on the 50-yard line. All right? Bottom line is that is the relative size of the nucleus compared to the atom. So the atom is all of Lane Stadium. In other words, that's where the electrons live. But the nucleus is this one little coffee bean, the size of one little coffee bean, sitting right in the middle. Okay? I know that's hard to comprehend, but that's about the relative size of a nucleus compared to the size of the entire atom. We often draw Bohr models of the atom this way. We tend to draw Bohr models of the atom this way. So it is very unrealistic, because we have this big nucleus right here with all the little electrons running around it, where in effect we have a very, very, very tiny nucleus compared to the size of the electrons, compared to where the electrons are. Okay? But just kind of keep that in your mind as we go forward. So that's really it for this podcast. I just want to make sure you had some concept of the size of the atom, right? That they're really, really tiny, and the nucleus is really, 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 really tiny. Okay? And the area between the nucleus and the electrons, what's in that area? Good, I'm glad you didn't say air. It is nothing. Cool. All right, any questions? Come see me in class. Hopefully you took notes. Please do the worksheet, and I'll see you in class. Have a good one. Bye.